Welcome to this concert to celebrate the life and music of my father, Denis Wick, who sadly passed away at the grand old age of 93 in February. Denis was very well known as a trombonist, but he was also a conductor, arranger, and teacher. He was always keen to promote the trombone and create new repertoire for it. And we begin with a work that was written by Gordon Jacob for Denis when Denis taught at the Guildhall School of Music. This trombone octet from 1981 was one of Gordon Jacob's last works, written when he was already in his late 80s. Let us welcome then the Royal Academy of Music Trombone Ensemble, conducted by Dudley Bright, to play Gordon Jacob's Trombone Octet. I loved the way the concert started, actually, with the piece written for Denis. It was for 8 trombones by Gordon Jacob. And Gordon Jacob was the great old man of British composers. He'd been the professor of composition at the Royal College for many, many years at this stage. And amongst his pupils had been Malcolm Arnold and Joseph Horowitz, two names very familiar to most brass players. So there was Gordon Jacob in his 80s, and he wrote this absolutely magnificent piece for 8 trombones, directed by my old friend Dudley Bright, who was been principal trombone of the Philharmonia and the London Symphony Orchestra. And Dudley conducted 8 students from the Royal Academy of Music, and it was an absolutely brilliant opening to the show. And as Ed said, the standard of performance all through the concert absolutely took my breath away. I mean, it was just very fine trombone playing from beginning to end. I think another aspect which touched me very much at the concert was the fact that Denis was very keen to help young people and encourage young people to take up the trombone and help them on their way with their trombone playing. And I did make a special effort to have a lot of young players in the concert because Denis would have loved that. Well, I could have easily phoned around all my Johns and got people, more my age to play, but that would have been that wouldn't have reflected Denis's ideas at all, I don't think. So one other thing I was very proud of as well, actually, was the fact that we had students playing from the Royal Academy of Music, the Guildhall School of Music, Trinity Laban, and the Royal College of Music, which are, those who are not Londoners, the 4 big music schools in London. And that was very pleasing to have students from all the 4 colleges performing. Dennis always liked to be positive with students and, find the best in them. And I remember one of the things he said was, if you've got a group of, 10 students or something, and there's always going to be a couple who are a bit weaker. But he said you shouldn't never dismiss these people because you can learn from them, even if you think you're the bee's knees as a player. Just watch watch his breathing or something. You could learn something from that, and it was very inclusive in that way. And I thought that was a, very positive attitude. As you say, all the performers having to perform in front of, I mean, as you say, it was an extremely distinguished audience. And also all the other performers listening in as well. And my heart went out especially to the three soloists, Brett Baker and Chris Holding and Matt from the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. I mean, to stand up and play a solo in front of all those other trombone players, I mean, and they all played absolutely fantastically. It's good to hear the Gordon Jacob played by Brett Baker because, those notes are burnt into my head from when I was a kid listening to Denis practicing that. But it was really great to hear that. The idea for the event came from my fellow musicians and a lot of Denis's ex-students and so on. And it seemed like a really nice idea. We found a suitable venue. And then I started thinking about Denis's life in music and all the different ways he'd been involved with music. I mean, obviously, as a player, so we wanted some pieces that he'd played. But he also had a lot of music written for him, going right back to 1955 when Gordon Jacob wrote the famous trombone concerto for him. But he also commissioned works when he was a teacher, especially in the days when he was teaching at the Guildhall School of Music. So he commissioned works for multiple trombones from Gordon Jacob and Buxton Orr to very well-known composers in this country. And also, Denis was an arranger, so we also had music arranged by Denis. So music composed for him, played by him, and arranged by him. We had a grand finale. My friend Eric Kreese, who was Denis' second trombone in the LSO for many years, suggested performing tracks from an album called Bones Galore that Denis played on back in 1969. And this featured 16 trombones and rhythm section. And it was arranged by a really wonderful arranger, stroke trombone player called Pete Smith. And we managed to get hold of the music, and then we had to find all of these rather specialist players, because it needs valve trombones, which isn't that common an instrument. It needs alto trombones, which again is the alto trombones are a bit more common than they used to be, but they're still not that common. And plus 4 and 4, 2 choirs of 4. Really good trombone players who can play jazz phrasing and so on. So and plus 4 bass trombones as well. So, but people were very generous with their time. They gave up their time to rehearse and perform, and we had a really great rhythm section, and the whole thing came together beautifully. I was so pleased on the day, and I think it was a very fitting tribute to Denis.